Washington, D.C., a city built on power, ambition, and conflict. Every hearing, every press conference, every whispered conversation in the marble halls of Congress carries weight, and sometimes, when the right words are spoken at the right time, that weight becomes almost unbearable. On this day, the spotlight was fixed on Vice President Kamala Harris. She entered with the authority of her office, her stride steady, her expression composed. To her supporters, she was resilient, battle-tested, and loyal to the administration. To her critics, she was scripted, evasive, a figure more comfortable in rehearsed lines than raw confrontation. But today, she believed she had the upper hand. Across the chamber sat Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, not a household name yet, but already building a reputation. Sharp, relentless, unafraid. Crockett had earned her place by cutting through the noise with piercing honesty. Where others hesitated, she pressed forward. Where others softened, she sharpened. And as the lights dimmed over the crowd of journalists, cameras, and staffers, it was clear she was ready to prove it once more. The chamber buzzed with expectation. Cameras lined the back wall, red lights blinking. Reporters leaned forward, pens poised. Staffers whispered bets on how the clash would unfold. This wasn't just another policy debate. This was theater, a test of will. Kamala Harris adjusted her notes, her voice calm, smooth, almost soothing as she began. America needs leaders who focus on solutions, not on creating more division. We face challenges, from protecting voting rights to defending democracy, and these require unity, not attacks. The words echoed like a familiar refrain, carefully chosen, crafted for headlines, the kind of lines designed to reassure, not provoke. For a moment, the room seemed to settle, as if the script was unfolding as expected. But Jasmine Crockett leaned in, her voice low but edged with fire. Madam Vice President, unity is not silence. Leadership is not avoiding the hard questions. The American people don't need polished speeches. They need honesty. They need accountability. They need someone willing to tell them the truth, even when it's uncomfortable. A spark shot through the chamber. Reporters exchanged glances. Staffers froze mid-whisper. The air grew heavier. This wasn't just a challenge, it was a warning shot. Harris lifted her chin, her expression tightening, the faint smile gone. The tension was visible, almost physical. The atmosphere shifted from routine to raw confrontation. The stage was set, and as the camera zoomed in, America braced for what was coming. Jasmine Crockett versus Kamala Harris. A battle not of policy papers, but of power, conviction, and truth. The silence before the storm was over. The showdown had begun. The room, once buzzing with routine anticipation, now vibrated with tension. Jasmine Crockett's challenge had shattered the polished calm of Kamala Harris's opening words, and suddenly every person present knew this would not be another scripted exchange. Crockett leaned closer to her microphone, her eyes fixed firmly on the Vice President. Her voice was steady, but every syllable carried weight. Madam Vice President, the people are tired of speeches. They've heard the promises. They've seen the smiles. But what they haven't seen is real progress. They haven't seen accountability. So I ask you, where is the courage? Where is the action? Gasps flickered through the chamber. Journalists scribbled furiously, glancing at each other with wide eyes. Staffers exchanged hurried whispers as cameras zoomed in tighter, capturing every detail of Harris's reaction. The Vice President straightened her shoulders, her expression carefully measured. Her voice was calm but carried an unmistakable edge. Congresswoman, leadership is not about chasing sound bites. It's about building coalitions, about finding common ground, about governing responsibly. The American people need solutions, not division. Her words landed smoothly, delivered with the polish of long political experience. But Crockett didn't blink. She pressed harder, her tone sharper now, the edge unmistakable. Solutions? Madam Vice President, the people don't see solutions. They see delay. They see leaders more concerned with optics than with truth. They don't need common ground with those destroying democracy. They need a fighter who will defend it. The words hit the chamber like a thunderclap. A low murmur spread across the audience, some leaning forward, others shaking their heads. This was no longer routine oversight. This was combat. Harris leaned in, her jaw tight. It's easy to criticize from the sidelines. It's much harder to govern, to sit at the table and make decisions that affect millions. The people expect more than attacks. They expect leadership. It was a calculated jab aimed at painting Crockett as reckless, an outsider stirring conflict rather than delivering results. But Crockett fired back without hesitation. Division? What divides this country is not voices like mine. What divides this country is inaction. What divides this country is government leaders who speak of unity but refuse to confront hard truths. If telling the truth is called division, then maybe Washington needs more division and less silence. The chamber froze. Even those who disagreed could feel the gravity of the moment. Journalists whispered into their recorders. Headlines were already being written. Crockett takes on Harris head-to-head. Every exchange raised the stakes higher. Harris still carried the title, but Jasmine Crockett now carried the momentum. The energy in the room had transformed. This was no longer a debate, it was a storm, and it was only just beginning. And then the shift came. The chamber, already thick with tension, felt like it was holding its breath. Everyone sensed that the confrontation was about to explode into something unforgettable. Jasmine Crockett leaned forward, her eyes blazing, her voice like sharpened steel. "Madam Vice President, you talk about leadership. But where is it? You talk about progress. Where is it? Families are struggling every single day, and what they hear are speeches polished for cameras. They don't want optics. They want action. They want courage. And right now, they're not getting it from you." The words struck like a hammer blow. The silence afterward was deafening. Reporters froze mid-sentence, pens suspended in the air. Cameras zoomed in as Kamala Harris shifted in her chair, her composure suddenly under siege. For a moment, Harris tried to rally. "Congresswoman, I reject the claim that this administration has been silent. We've been working tirelessly." But Crockett cut in, her tone sharper than ever. "Tirelessly? Tell that to the families waiting for justice. Tell that to the voters watching their rights stripped away while Washington debates procedure. Tell that to the people who believed in your promises but got excuses instead. Tireless work without results is not leadership. It is failure." The impact was immediate. Gasps rippled across the room. Staffers exchanged anxious glances, some covering their mouths. A journalist dropped his pen, the small clatter echoing like a drumbeat in the stillness. Narrator, serious, cinematic tone. Kamala Harris, the Vice President of the United States, a veteran of countless debates and interrogations, sat visibly shaken. Her polished armor of rehearsed lines cracked under Crockett's relentless fire. She reached for her notes, glanced down, then back up. But the hesitation was there. The cameras caught it all. Crockett pressed one final time, her words cutting through the silence. "Leadership is not avoiding the hard truths. Leadership is not delay dressed as progress. Leadership is speaking the truth, owning it, and acting on it. The American people deserve honesty, and what they see right now is the opposite." The chamber was transfixed. Even Harris's allies sat stunned, their eyes darting between the two women as though watching history being carved in real time. Outside, the world reacted instantly. Clips flooded social media. "Crockett leaves Harris speechless" trended within minutes. Commentators on cable news argued over what it meant. Was this the rise of a new star, or the public unraveling of a vice president's image? But in that chamber, one truth was undeniable. Jasmine Crockett had seized the moment, standing unshaken as Kamala Harris faltered. Crockett leaned back slowly, her face calm, her presence commanding. The silence spoke louder than any words could, and in that silence the verdict was clear. Crockett had won the exchange. The gavel never struck to end the moment, but everyone in the room knew the showdown had reached its conclusion. What followed, more speeches, more questions, more procedure, barely registered. The story had already been written. Narrator, steady, reflective tone. Kamala Harris, the Vice President of the United States, had faced a challenge not from an opposing party, but from within her own ranks. And in front of the cameras, in front of the nation, she had been shaken. The calm, polished answers that once carried her through interviews and debates now felt fragile, hollow, overpowered by a voice that refused to yield. Outside the chamber, the reaction was instant. News networks interrupted broadcasts to replay the exchange. Headlines blared, "Crockett destroys Harris in explosive showdown." Social media erupted. Hashtags like #Crockett vs. Harris and #explosive showdown spread within minutes. Supporters called Crockett a truth teller, a fighter unafraid to speak directly to power. Critics accused her of disrespect, of undermining party unity. But no one denied the force of the moment. Commentators filled the airwaves, dissecting every word. Some declared it the clearest sign yet that Harris's hold on the future of Democratic leadership was slipping. Others framed Crockett as the rising star, a figure able to channel the frustration of a restless base into something raw, unapologetic, and electrifying. Narrator, serious tone. What made the moment resonate wasn't simply the sharpness of Crockett's words, it was the composure behind them. She did not scream, she did not flail, she simply stood her ground, fearless, pressing a vice president until silence became the only reply. Harris finished the hearing with the professionalism expected of her office, but the damage was undeniable. Each attempt to regain control was overshadowed by the memory of hesitation, of faltered words, of Crockett's relentless gaze. And that silence became the headline. Narrator, cinematic rising tone. Moments like this don't solve the nation's crises. They don't erase division, corruption, or mistrust overnight. But they remind us that power can be questioned, that titles do not shield leaders from truth, and that sometimes accountability comes not from committees or institutions, but from one voice, unafraid to speak. For Jasmine Crockett, this was more than a debate. It was a declaration. She had stepped onto the national stage and proven she could not only stand toe-to-toe with the vice president, she could leave her grasping for words. And so the question lingers, heavy in Washington's air. Who will answer the people's demand for courage? Who will lead with truth instead of comfort? Who will face the fire, and who will retreat into silence? Because silence, as Kamala Harris learned that day, can be louder than words. Music swells, then fades into a steady, dramatic outro. Narrator, direct to audience, firm and engaging. Now it's your turn. Was Jasmine Crockett right to challenge the vice president so directly, or was this just another moment of political theater? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We want to hear what you think. And if you found this breakdown powerful, hit that like button, subscribe for more hard-hitting political commentary, and don't forget to ring the notification bell so you never miss a moment when history unfolds in real time. Because in politics, words matter, but sometimes silence says it all.